Hi, my name is Paul Babby, and I'm really excited to be talking to you tonight about the latest issue of Agathon, a journal of ethics published by ATF Press. I was the special editor of this latest issue, which is entitled Ethics in Climate Change, Choosing the Future. And in this issue of the journal, which includes 5 chapters written by separate authors, we explore the way in which humans have driven anthropogenic climate change and the ways in which humans might respond to the challenges that are now posed by that threat. In fact, we look at a way that attempts to adapt an approach of pragmatism in which we incrementally search out a new moral order and a new way of living collectively that recognizes the risks of climate change and responds to them in humility. As I say, the journal includes 5 contributions, the first of which is written by Sephirosa Carroll and is entitled Stateless, Placeless, and Landless: The Complexity of Climate-Induced Displacement and Migration in the Pacific and Its Implications for a Theology of Place. And as the title would suggest, Sephirosa deals with the very real threat of climate change at this time for those communities living in the Pacific and the ways in which those communities may respond to that very real threat. In 2 chapters, one written by Claire Williams and one co-written by Donald Brown, Hugh Breakey, Peter Burden, Brendan Mackey, and Prue Taylor, we look at the ways in which science may not only be one of the drivers, the original drivers of anthropogenic climate change, but the way in which science may respond to the threat that we face today in climate change. And so in Claire's chapter, which is entitled Science Does Not Make Ethical Prescriptions, but in the case of climate change, maybe it should, Claire explores the ways in which science may, as I say, today respond to what climate change is imposing upon all the inhabitants of the world. And in the chapter by Brown, Breakey, Burden, Mackey, and Taylor, they look at the way in which legal arrangements may be utilized in order to adopt the commitments adopted by those nations which are signatories to the Paris Climate Accord. In my own chapter, which is entitled A Matter of Choice, Property and the Person, I look at the way in which one particular concept or aspect of law, the concept of private property, has been responsible or acts as a tool which allows humans to engage in the greenhouse gas emitting activities which drive anthropogenic climate change, and the ways in which that concept may need to be modified or altered in order to address that historic difficulty. And in the final chapter by Jana Norman, she explores the way in which the liberal individual, which is seen as the primary or elemental component of liberal democracy that we live in today, in the West at least, may need to be reconsidered again in order to take account of the ways in which that liberal individual has been responsible, conceptually speaking, for driving anthropogenic climate change. So we think this is an outstanding volume which will assist in making a contribution to the way in which we understand anthropogenic climate change and the way in which we may respond to that threat which is posed to us today. And therefore, the title, as I say, is Ethics in Climate Change, Choosing the Future, because in a very real way, what we discuss in this volume is the fact that in all of the ways that we explore, it is really us, humans, who are making the choices that not only drive climate change, but we are also responsible for those choices which may be able to mitigate the threat of climate change which we face today. So I hope that you'll have a look at our volume and find it as useful to read as we found to write. Thanks very much.